welcome to the Moms for Moms event. We're so thrilled that you are here today. And I am your host, Samantha Edis. And I would love, before we begin, to just hear a little bit about who's in the audience. So if anyone is brave enough to just raise their hand and tell us a little bit about yourself as a mom or as a pregnant mom.
Thank you.
Or else, okay, great.
I don't need that.
Awesome. And what brought you here tonight? Great. Wonderful. Anyone else? On this side, who wants to represent? So I think one of the great things about this event is that there are such a variety of moms. There's a number of pregnant moms in the audience, and there's moms of teenagers, and there's mothers of all different ages here. And the one thing that bonds us all is that we are going to be talking tonight about how to be more judgment-free and how to handle judgment as a mom. So why don't we start by having our panelists come out?
That's right. One of our panelists is getting naked back here.
It's called just-in-time paneling.
We're a little late.
So first I'll start with Carly. Carly Roney just returned from China
Hello, everybody.
with her family. She spent 6 months there with her children. And Carly is the founder of the Knot.com and the Bump.
Seating arrangements. Sorry.
Oh, I think you're right there.
You're next to me, Carly.
Okay. Okay. I like the seat. Where are you?
And
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you. You're the best shitty mom ever.
next to Carly is Michelle Nuren. Michelle is the founder of CT Working Moms, and she is also the creator of Judgement-Free. It was her idea, Judgement-Free Day. And we're thrilled to have her. She also works full-time for women's rights, and we'd love to hear more about your work a little bit later. It sounds amazing. And next to Michelle is Alicia Ibarbo.
Hey, sweetie, how are you?
Who is a Today Show producer, and in her spare time, she's a best-selling author, along with her partner in crime, Marianne Zollner.
Hello.
Hello. And Marianne and Alicia have written a best-selling book that you might be familiar with called Shitty Mom.
You said it.
It's
taken her 2 years to say that word. Let me just tell you.
We've known Sam, we've known Samantha a very long time, and in the beginning it was like, so how do you want me to mention the book? Like, what do I say? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've come a long way. Yes. So it's been, yes. So we have a great variety on this panel. Everyone is a mom, everyone is a working mom, and everyone has a different perspective that they're going to bring to the conversation tonight about judgment and handling judgment as a mom and how we can support each other better. So I thought we would begin with Carly. And why don't you share with us why you think that moms are so judgmental and why this happens?
Well, first I just want to say thank you all of you for coming. This is my house we're in. This is the home of thebump.com, and thank you all so much for checking out during the cold, and thank you to all of our friends out on the Google Hangout. It's great to have you with us as well. And you know, one of the reasons I actually wanted to start the Bump, and after we had started the Knot, obviously we sort of moved into, I was having children, and I felt very passionate about letting people, that there were all these different beliefs out there about ways to parent. And I certainly found myself becoming passionate about my own beliefs. And it's interesting, when you are first subjected to someone else's judgment as a parent, and I was a very avid breastfeeder, not only because it was like completely convenient for me as an entrepreneur with like no time to figure out how to buy formula or like actually like mix a bottle. I was just like, what? Yeah, like, you know, getting on phone calls or whatever, but it also just was a way I stayed connected with my baby. And people were just like mortified by how long I breastfed my children. Like, really? You're going to still do that when they're going to college? You know, you got all of the comments. And so it really became important to me to say, you know what, listen, we're all making all of our own choices. And I think that people do it because honestly, I think because we're all insecure about our choices. Because we're insecure about our choices because we're made to feel insecure about our choices, I think, by a lot of the sort of like media. And I sort of wanted to create a platform to make people say, you know what? You have to feel what you want to do. Read all the opinions, but you have to feel what's right for you. And if it comes from a place of real kind of like authenticity and confidence, then you have to be sort of confident against that judgment and not judge anyone else. So I do think it comes from our lack of real strong sense of what's right and wrong. We want to do the best for our kids. So I don't think it comes from a bad place, but I do think we need to cure it. Moms for moms. So.
And in your experience, what was it that made you sort of overcome it, or how did you manage it yourself? When you felt yourself being judged, how did you manage that?
I was like, damn it, I'm going to start a website and put all my judgments out there. I think that I mean, you know, as I say, I think it stings the first couple of times, and then you just have to be able to, you know, to really, I mean, I got it from everywhere too, not only like, you know, people around me, I got it from my mother-in-law, I got it from other mothers, my nanny. There's a lot of people out there, and I think you just have to sort of like fortify your resolve and go inside, you know, think about your beliefs, and then find people who are like you, that believe the same things you do, honestly. And that's one of the reasons we have these communities on the bump, so you can connect with people like you who have the same belief system and take comfort in that.
So, Michelle, obviously we live in a society that's so judgmental of everyone, not just mothers. What do you think makes mother-on-mother judgment worse than other kinds of judgment?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Mom on mom.
Like you said, our message of loving more and judging less really is a universal message. You know, we think everybody could do that a little bit more. Why it's worse between moms? I think like Carly said, you know, the media really does pit moms against each other. And I think that plays a big role in it.
It's our fault, Alicia.
Yeah, don't hate me.
No.
So Alicia is a member of the media as a producer on the Today Show. And why don't you talk about a time that you felt judged and how that impacted you?
Well, I mean, when are we not judged, right? The second we wake up in the morning, we are completely 100% judged. Number one, by our husbands who are like, you look like that in the morning. To our kids who are like, you're wearing that today to work. Like, how about something else in the closet? Like, we're constantly bombarded with eyeballs of people looking at us and saying, oh, is that who you choose to be today? And some days it's like, I couldn't care less about you guys, but then there are other days when maybe we're not feeling so strong, and we take those words to heart. One time that I just really remember being judged, and I use this story very often. It was my son's birthday, and it was a school party, and I had baked cupcakes. And it was one of those days, like here we are,
From
Marianne
scratch?
and I, not from scratch.
No,
But-
long live the box.
But no, seriously, I'm a big box cupcake girl. But I did the right box, right? I did gluten-free, I did this free, I did that free. Like, these cupcakes were like made of steel because any kid allergy, they were Teflon to. Yet I get to school, and for some reason, there was one allergy that I had not thought about. I don't remember which one it was, but the teacher called me and said, I'm sorry, we cannot serve these cupcakes. I'm like, no. And she's like, what's in, and I went and I explained and I shared everything that was in them or not in them. And my son came home very upset because 5 kids could not have those or enjoy those cupcakes. So it was like, oh, I was judged. You know, it was, I had gone so far. I was exhausted. I'm making them the night before. I'm thinking I am the perfect mom at this point. I got an award that night that I gave to myself for being an awesome mom. And then the next day I was crushed. I was back down at the bottom and told I wasn't good enough. And that's basically how it happens. I mean, sometimes we're not even being judged by other people. It's sometimes put on by ourselves.
Has there ever been a story that, as a member of the media, has there ever been a story that you've been working on that you squashed because you felt it was too harsh about other moms?
Well, we love sexy titles. We love sexy stories. So, you know, it's funny because when we do see stories in the news, it's kind of like we like to sauce it up. But at the same time, I'm a producer, but I'm also a mom. I also have 2 children. I also have a husband and a family. And so I think of those things when we are putting material together. And there are times that, you know, we don't ambush people. We don't tell them, hey, this is how the story is going to be. And then, you know, on air it's completely different. We're very transparent with how we approach the news. And sometimes, you know, women don't want to hear it. I mean, just last week we did an entire week of, you know, love yourself, love your selfie. And, you know, it's taken a lot more pressure from us behind the scenes to have them do stories like that. But again, it all boils down to what's going to sell. And what's going to sell is a very sexy title from a story that, you know, is a little more on the salacious side.
And Marianne, how about you? Have you ever been judged as a mom?
I just judged her on the subway.
Wait a second. I thought I was on the panel because I'm perfect. Wait a second. Yes, I mean, you're judged by your own mom, you're judged, but I think actually it doesn't have anything to do with the media. I completely disagree with that statement. And I'll tell you why. I think that it's what you were saying earlier, though, that I totally agree with. I think that moms are harder on moms because of insecurities. And because none of us know what we're doing at any given time, and the only person that we have really to look at are our own moms, who may or may not have done everything right. Mom, you're perfect. And we look at other friends, and we look at, so every single moment, because everybody's just trying to figure out, because it's all a big mystery. You're every time you have a kid, you're like a little kid in your belly now, like, how do I keep the child off drugs? How do I keep them safe? How do I keep them from getting kidnapped? How do I keep them well fed? How do I you know, so you're always churning through that stuff in your brain all the time, and we're all so insecure about everything, so it's easy to talk out loud because frankly we judge everything. I mean, who watched the Academy Awards the other day and was like, so-and-so's dress, that was great, what about that acceptance speech? So we're naturally judgers, period, and when it comes to moms, it's like we're most insecure that you'll ever be, like, oh, did my kid make a 55 on the test because I ended up having to work late at night, or is it because they didn't eat the broccoli the day before, or is it because, I mean, so you're always going through this stuff. I mean, I was joking with the boss today, my children speak fluent Spanish, and neither my husband nor myself speak fluent Spanish. Our babysitter does speak fluent Spanish. And I'm like, I wonder why. Yeah, that's a really great takeaway that she speaks perfect Spanish, but I wonder if it's because my child's being raised by my nanny. No judgment. So I think that more from the media. I honestly think that we're just so insecure every single moment of the day as a parent. And that's where it stems from.
I think the only thing I mean about the media is that we, you know, listen, the headline of 10 ways to assure your thing is the perfect blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That idea that there's some version of perfect or the best, we have to use those words.
Right.
Because
exactly,
that's
the sensational.
What gets you to click. It's one of these terrible, self-fulfilling things because I'm like, I want to see the best versions of that or how not to make X mistakes. We all, kind of feed into it, but it actually does, proliferate this idea that there is a best way to do something. And it's an interesting thing too. I think one of the reasons as I've sort of looked at this, I think one of the things that happens too is that it starts in many instances as a passion point for people. Something that they find and discovered, and then it turns into, or even sometimes can be perceived as judgment. I can tell you, I truly did not judge other women in my office who weren't using our pumping room to continue breastfeeding while they were at work. But I can tell you that I became passionate about the topic when I realized how much funding was going against women breastfeeding by the formula companies, right? I became impassioned by the kind of concept, this world that it's wow, there are all these people trying to make you feel like this is the better option, the hospitals and the formula, and then so you're become this kind of, and it isn't judgment, but I think we're so ready to be judged too. There'd be times, and they call me like the breastfeeding Nazi. The office, I'm like, I'm not the breastfeeding Nazi. I'm just saying that I want to be the force that supports people to do it when there's all this huge other force supporting them not doing it. So it's hard that we are all, I think that there's, if everyone kind of walks into it with some confidence, and as you say, it's hard to. Why? Because we don't live in like a community of moms, like a village where we're all with each other and we all share the same things and we're all watching each other do things, and there's a shared sensibility of what it means to raise a child today. We don't have that.
Well, you just brought up a village. I moved across the country a couple years ago, and one of the hardest things was knowing that I had no family around. I didn't have my husband's family around, and so I knew I kind of needed to create a village or I was going to be screwed, because there was going to be a time when I traveled for work and my husband was traveling, or I just couldn't rely only on hired help to help me. And so I developed this idea that I just needed to make 2 mom friends in each of my children's grades. And that was my goal. And they don't need to be your best friends. They just need to be moms that you'll sort of reciprocate with. It's a currency. You're going to do things for them. They're going to do things for you. And that was my goal. And just last week, I had an emergency medical thing at the last minute. And another mom, I mentioned it to her, and normally I'm like closed about that kind of stuff, but I decided to mention it to her, and she said, you know, on that day, I would love to pick up all your kids at the bus stop, take them home with me, pack their pajamas ahead of time, and I will bathe them and feed them and return them to you at 7 o'clock. And like,
What is her name and number?
Yeah, that's right. Does she have any more room in her minivan?
I still like almost cry thinking about it, because she's a new friend as of 2 years ago, but the fact that she would do that for me, it meant so much to me, and I feel like I healed faster because just knowing that that person was out there supporting me. So I want to turn the conversation a little bit to the village that Carly just referenced. What do you think in terms of other moms supporting each other? Because we do talk a lot about judgment, but there's also so much mom support that we all need and get. Even those of you that are pregnant in the audience tonight, I encourage you to, exchange phone numbers, because you really are going through something together at the same time. And a lot of moms come into having a baby thinking, I already have plenty of friends from college, from high school, whatever it is, but you need those new mom friends.
Yeah, the first people who are going to judge you are your friends without babies.
Yeah,
Exactly. Totally.
Well, and the thing is this is the first time, like, we're all probably close to type A, if not type A already in this room. Like, we all know how to figure things out on our own. This is the first time in our worlds that a baby comes along into your family, and you have no idea what to do with it. And so that insecurity is what, kind of stops us in our tracks. Whereas, like, we are go-getters. I'm a go-getter at work, but life stops when I, close the front door to my home. So that's, I think, how it all begins is like, I can't fix this. There's no, like, book. There's no Cliff's Notes that I can cram one evening and figure it all out. And I think that is bottom line. What's so frustrating about it all is that we can't, there is no easy, simple, wonderful elixir of an answer. It's just kind of, we have to stumble through it. And the more people you find, it's not even a physical need, it's more of an emotional need, because the husbands are like, whatever. They're supportive, but it's they don't understand, like, the emotional, like, trauma that's going on in your head.
Carly, can you think of a time that a mom supported you, or that you've leaned on other moms?
Oh my God. I mean, actually, I was going to say, like, takeaway from this, make sure that you have, someone you can call who had a baby in the last year. And when someone offers, they say, call me if you need anything, I promise you they mean it. If they say call any time or day or night, they mean it. Because there's this huge pay it forward thing with parents. Like, that woman was dying to pick up your kids because she knew she had credit in your bank afterwards, and you need credit in each other's banks. And when you have a baby, and you go through these things yourself, you actually truly want to share it with other people. Like, you want to say, like, I can help you, because there's going to be that moment where you're going to be like, I can't get this baby to stop crying, and I don't want to call the doctor because she's going to think I call too early, and I need a friend I can call. But that's the one thing I would also say. If someone says it, they mean it, and take them up on it, because it is truly a gift, right, to give other people.
Yeah, I think this was a great question, Samantha, because when we're talking about judgment, I think the dangerous thing about judging other moms, we all know this, when you're judging someone, you feel separate from them, you feel distant, you feel negative. But we really do all need each other. We're all in motherhood together. And that's why, we all love this message, because being united is so much better than us judging each other and feeling distant from each other.
And how about you, Michelle? Have there been times that you've needed other moms, or is there a time that you can think about?
Oh my gosh, so many. I mean, I'm fortunate to have CT working moms. Actually, several of our bloggers are here in the front row.
Yeah.
And I lean on them all the time for support about a variety of things, and I feel very fortunate that I have that community.
My secret is I live in Manhattan, so find the moms in the building. And if you live in the burbs, find the moms who are like 2
One
doors
street
that
away.
way
I
or
know.
2 doors that way, because that is what, I mean, you ask a favor, they are right on you. Like, and now it's many times I can't get out the door in time in the morning when my husband's traveling, and I'll just call downstairs or text and say, hey, my kids are going to be down in the lobby. Can you help take them to school? And it's an immediate, like, yes, of course I'll take them. So, and it's obviously works both ways, but I love Carly's advice as far as just take care of those favors first, because the credit is an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling when you're stuck on an evening. You're like, what do I do the next morning? Oh, I've got that friend, Elsie, that I'm going to call right now, and she's going to help me out. Like, it's just such a peace of mind. It really is.
Marianne, what about you?
I think that for me, the moms in Manhattan, I have a humongous family. I'm one of 9 kids. And so when after the birth of my first child, I had really severe postpartum, and talk about like not wanting to be judged. I was like, oh, I don't want to be judged. I'm going to leave town. So the minute my husband had his first business trip, I hightailed it and my mama was here helping me, which was amazing. And then I hightailed it back to Tulsa, and kind of moved in with one of my brothers and his wife, who was just unbelievable and wonderful support and all this kind of stuff, kind of to get me through, because I was just worried about myself and kind of like being alone with the baby. I was really terrified. So it was like a really bad time in this kind of like judging moms, judging me, because I was the worst one, like judging myself, like how is this even
You're the
possible?
only person in the world. You
Right,
always think
like,
whatever bad feelings you have, you're the only person in the world who's feeling this horrible.
And it was like something so impossible for me to deal with it. So like even to like explain it to my husband, who was just thought that this little person that was born was like the most incredible, amazing thing he'd ever seen. So to say like, I'm going through this, it took a long time to kind of get there. But I was able to, but I knew enough, and thankfully, like, God was watching over, and I knew enough to, like, hightail it and just be around people, because I knew, like, if I was around people that loved me and that I loved, because I'm not from Manhattan, and friends of mine had already either had older kids or something, and it's also, like Alicia said, like, she was very involved with, like, mom groups and stuff like that, and I just didn't have that, because I did end up kind of, like, leaving town and staying with my family for, like, a good month until I was like felt strong enough and like had like really worked through it. And like you, I was really determined to breastfeed for a year. I thought, come high and hell high water, I'm going to breastfeed for a year, because I knew as a working mom, I'm not always going to be there every single day, every single school function, every single this. But I'm like, this is something I can do, and I can do it well, and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, literally like pumping on planes, throwing it out, doing Where in the World's with Matt Lauer, like throwing away breast milk. But it didn't matter, because I had set this goal for myself that was like, I'm going to do this as a mom. And so that was that. And I also did natural childbirth. And I mean, I have to say that I did that, no drugs, and I got judged from that. So I mean, I think that judging, even with that stuff, you should find people, right? Find people. I know, I wish I had you as my mommy friend. I think that finding people that kind of line up with you as well, if you're going to like find the person next door, make sure that person like lines up with you on a couple of things, so you can have help with support and things that you believe in, whether or not it's breastfeeding, giving birth natural, whatever it is. If you fill in those core things, and a doctor, pediatrician, the same thing.
Yeah, those are two. We're writing another bump book, and one of them we were talking about some of these, like choosing your network. Like there are professionals that you engage in professional relationships with, your pediatrician, your nanny, your child, your daycare provider. These are people actually you need to make sure they align with your line of thinking, because if they don't, no matter what you know, if you're bringing help into your home, whatever they really think is what they're going to like seed the message with all the time. So if they don't believe you, if they don't believe in the same things you believe in, you won't, not only you're very vulnerable, you feel very quickly judged, and you can feel undermined. It doesn't happen all the time, but like, so it's important to like figure out what you believe in. You have the right to change your mind is the other thing. Like you may start out thinking one thing. I was like, natural childbirth, give me the epidural. And the opposite, you know. But I think that that's a really important tip I would give you as well, because having someone around you that you're really reliant on that feels kind of undermining makes you even more vulnerable, and you have to be able to.
So it's like you need two teams. You need the team you're talking about, your professional team, and choosing them really carefully.
Right.
And then you need this other team of moms. And one of the interesting things is that that team is always changing. So even if you think you have your mom friends, then you have a second child, and suddenly you need kids, because all the gear is changed by the time you have your second or third child, and you need other moms who are, you know, going through it at the same time with you who have multiple kids, or you're suddenly a single mom and suddenly you have this single mom network. So there's so many changes over time that require you to change your network. One of the ways that I sort of integrated into a new city is I joined this like Mommy and Me group, and they'd been together for years, and I kind of joined in the third year. And they were really cliquey, and it probably was only 2 months ago that I'm like, I belong here, but I stuck it out. There were so many nights where I'm like, you guys are all best friends. I'm really fun too. You know? But it was worth sticking it out, and I think sometimes you have to do that, because for me it was for the sake of my kids. My kids need to have friends, and I need to be friends with their parents, and so I need to kind of like go for it in that way. What would you say is a great way sort of to break the ice with other moms when you're trying to get through to them or trying to make new mom friends?
You know, every year I make a beeline to really saddle up to the PTA mom. I have to be totally honest. Like that's not one thing that I, you know, can afford. I don't have the luxury of time to do that. But that PTA mom knows everything that's going down in that school. You don't need to talk to the principal. You don't need to talk to the teacher. All you need is the class rep or the PTA person, and that's it. Like you can get so many questions answered in just that person. So figure out like who those, you know, people, especially at school, need to be, because oftentimes as working moms, we don't get those opportunities for pickup. I would love to be there at pickup every day. Right. That's where all the dirt happens. That's where you get all the scoop. I'm not there, so you have to find other ways. So you need to just kind of be resourceful as far as finding out how you're going to get your information.
And that's a good place to cross the divide. Like I was like, I'm going to be all the friends with the non-working moms, right? Because they're the ones who are actually super. They know everything. They know everyone, and they are like amazingly helpful and emergent. And I think they feel bad for me. So they.
There is, yeah. Exactly.
Sometimes you can use judgment to your advantage.
So we're going to open it up now to our online viewers as well as all of you in the audience. And I just want to remind you that if you're tweeting tonight, the hashtag is moms4moms. It's the number 4. So if any of you would like to talk to me or any of the panelists with questions. Great. Okay.
Has anyone gotten judged about, quote, how much weight they gained or how much weight they haven't gained during their pregnancy? Right? That's a big one. You're like, whoa, you should. I'm like, I swear I eat like a horse. I'm trying. Everyone has a comment for everything. We actually have a lovely list of like the most ridiculous things people have ever said to pregnant women. And most of them, like 9 out of 10, are like judgments. Like, go ahead. You have sorry. Just filling the time for our online viewers.
So this is a really interesting question. Is there a time and a place for intervening in someone's parenting?
Yeah, safety. Yeah.
What were you saying? Safety?
Safety.
I think it's a measure of safety that as a mom, if you don't intervene, then you're not even being a good mom. Like safety is just paramount to anything.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's.
How about you, Al? Have you ever interfered with another person's parenting?
God, I interfere all the time. I'm the worst. I've been on airplanes being like, I'm a pediatrician. You lie. No. I'm only, but like, I feel like I have to say, like, I'm a mother of 3. Can I give you, not like intervening people doing, actually there's one thing I really don't like, is when people wear their baby Bjorns too low. That drives me bananas. Where the like legs are banging, like baby Bjorns should be worn like so you can kiss the top of the head. It's actually really hard on the baby when it's like swinging against your legs when you go. And I'm like, oh, you know what, I worked at the baby Bjorn, people showed me how you're supposed to wear this. Want me to show you?
That's being helpful. I don't think that's being,
you know what?
being judged.
One person was like, thank you, I don't need your help. I was like, whoa, like it was a funny moment. Why? Because they felt the same thing, they're being judged. I'm like, no, I have 3, but, so I intervene, I think.
I've been on an airplane when
Safety.
people are so concerned about their children's noise that they're like torturous to their child. Like they're like
I know.
beating their children or like pushing them down below the seat because they don't
Right.
want to notice.
That's
and
a
you're
good place to
That's a
interview.
person you're doing
What
that
if
to.
we've been on a flight together, Samantha? I don't remember that.
Oh, this is a funny one. Will I ever live up to my mother-in-law's standards with our children?
No.
Give it up
No.
now.
Give up.
Never. And the second she walks in your home, you just give her as much, wine or alcohol.
That makes my mother-in-law worse.
Everything that you do is genius. So either feed her well or give her lots of liquor. She'll be happy either way.
Have you ever been judged by your mother-in-law?
Yes. Who hasn't? Maybe not Alicia. Maybe.
Yeah.
Harley?
It's probably pretty perfect.
My mother-in-law is Chinese, and so it's an entirely different culture as well. So actually, there was no cultural conflicts in my marriage until I had a child, when this huge list of ways, quote, ways people raise children, like came out of the woodwork. And it was a very interesting thing to know if you are in a cross-cultural relationship. I was not allowed to leave she's like, oh, you're not allowed to leave the house for 1 month. I was like, that's not happening. Mostly and there's a long list, but it's an interesting thing to either research in advance or know in advance so that you can be, because once again, you're like in that hugely vulnerable moment, particularly when you have a child, and these voices come in, and it's hard to defend yourself, but to know a little bit in advance makes you, I think a little bit more.
Maybe you can answer the next question then, which is,
Oh God, I doubt
how do I react when there was one that was perfect for you. How can I make my family understand that I will raise my child the way I want to? I
do think that the agreed, how like before you get married, you need to have a sense of like, what kind of life do we want to have? Do we need to, do we want our careers to come first? Do we want all those decisions you actually should have with your significant other prior to the baby arriving in your planet. One, like we need to be united front against our family. If we believe these things about raising our children, then I need to know that you're going to support me to your mom and say, Mom, you know what, give her a break. She needs, like, this is the way she wants to do it. She has the right to do that. Or like being clear in advance, I think, about some of the things too. Like, just so everyone knows, I know you didn't because it wasn't popular in the 70s, but everything shows now that I should X, that's the thing. People spend so much time being like, well, Johnny wasn't breastfed, and look how nice he is, So knowing those things in advance, and I think being clear about some of that. So taking some of the drama off even before the baby is born, if there are things that you're kind of passionate about.
I think too, with the whole campaign of judgment-free motherhood, I think it also applies to people who are judging us, because our message is really one of compassion, and not just compassion to other moms, but even compassion to people who are judging us.
Right.
Because usually when someone's judging us, like we talked about before, they're feeling insecure, they just don't know any better. So if you can sort of keep that in your mind when you're feeling really judged, even by a family member, it helps you, have a little space to feel love and not so negative that they're harping on you.
That's why my trip to Israel worked with my mother-in-law. No joke, I traveled with my mother-in-law, just the two of us, a girls' trip to Israel. 10 days, and everyone thought we were high as kites. But I got her drunk every single night, and when we got back, I think it was we have now this sisterhood. I think we have this alliance where now we don't beef about what the kids are doing or why are they going to California to your parents for 6 weeks out of the summer. Like, there are no more weird questions But I think it will take some sort of effort on both parts where you're kind of, whoever is asking the questions, just kind of maybe pull them aside and figure out a way to kind of diffuse all of that. Because honestly, I think that is what changed between me and my mother-in-law. Now I can, you know, I can run around naked and she'd think it was the best thing since sliced toast. Like, oh,
Note
that's
to
how
self,
you do
trip
it now?
to Israel.
10 days in Israel, yeah.
So 10 days in
Prescription.
Israel with your mother-in-law, that's it.
I think something. Can I just say one? I think something really nice about your point is, at one point I did realize about my mother-in-law is that it made her feel that maybe that I was saying she hadn't done it right when I was saying I wanted to do it this way. So there is the thing she was most proud of in her life was being a mom and doing those things. And so it brought into question. And so there was one moment in time where I think this is whatever, advice, take it or leave it. There are things that are critical that people need to follow your feelings about, and there are things that are not critical. And I decided at a certain point, because my mother-in-law was actually taking care of my child, that I was only going to make an issue out of these one or two things, and these were the things, and I was going to give on everything else. And also, if other people are taking care of my children at that moment in time, they have to be the boss and do it their own way. And it's not going to make or break your child, except in a few key areas where there is habit-forming behavior, and you do have to put your foot down about those things, but don't make it about a big, long list, because one night being held to go to sleep or one night being these different things are not going to make a difference. So it's good to pick your list and make it short for that and let other people kind of at times feel like that your parents or whatever do the things they want to do them for the 24-hour period and not question them either. Because anyway, do you agree?
Yep. No, good. No, I was thinking about mother-in-laws too, because I think that my mother-in-law is very different from my mother. Like, I grew up in the South, and my husband grew up in Montreal, and his mother's British. And so she, in my case, with my kids, she was very, very sweet with my older daughter, and then called my second daughter the other one, like to my face, like the other one. And for a while, I just had it in my mind, like, okay, we'll just see until she could basically understand she's the other one. Like, let's see how this plays out. And luckily, it's played out at age 7 that it's all worked out fine, and she's nice to her now, and she calls her by her name, Arabella. But just know that, first of all, we were visiting, and it wasn't going to be the end of and why kind of like start trouble. And at least in this case with my mother-in-law, who we have really grown into a nice relationship with each other, even though it's kind of a rocky start, is that it wasn't forever. Like, you're just there for a short amount of time. They're not in your house all the time. So just like you said, like even my mama giving my daughter Dr. Pepper when she was 2 months old or whatever, like all right, it's probably not the best thing, but is it gonna, do permanent damage? Probably not. I hope not. So it's like, exactly, Jibble, like pick these are your absolutes and be a little flexible and know, and it's all like this judgmental thing,
So before we ask more Google Hangout questions, does anyone in the audience have a question that's come up while we're talking? Yes.
Sure, that's a good question.
Can you explain how the idea for moms came about?
Well, CT Working Moms actually did a photo shoot almost 2 years ago now about post-baby bodies, sort of like what you were saying before. There's a lot of judgment on moms about our bodies after, always, but also after giving birth.
Just turned up a notch. Right?
And we actually went on the Today Show to talk about that, and that campaign really went viral. And so this past June, when the 1-year anniversary came around, we wanted to do something to commemorate that experience, and we decided to make our focus more broad and focus not just on embracing our bodies, but embracing parenting differences and parenting choices and sisterhood among moms. And so we actually did a photo shoot in June, and we created our CT Working Moms campaign for judgment-free motherhood, which, again, amazingly went viral then, and just last month went viral again. There was a story on Her Scoop that linked back to our campaign. And along as this was happening, the Bump caught wind of it and loved our message about loving more and judging less. And so we've been working together for several months with Melissa in the back to plan this day, to really have a day to celebrate judging less and loving each other more.
Yeah, that's totally how it happened. They were like, look at this, let's work with these cool people. They're other moms. Let's mom together on this. And yeah, it's amazing. I think that, I think that sometimes people need bumper stickers, right? It's like, remember you had all those make new friends, but keep the old. You all had these sayings when we were kids that helped to inform our sort of like the virtues of how we lived, right? So I think that what I liked about this is that the concept of this, which is like, we sometimes all need a reminder in the hectic of, thing of our everyday, that everyone's doing the best they can, making their own choices, doing their own thing. And like, the one thing they can do is just turn to them and be like, way to go. Whatever your go is, that's awesome. Like, we're all surviving as parents, getting through our days, raising, decent, healthy, call it like, as long as my kid's like a general contributor to society, I guess I've succeeded, And it's hard to be a mom today. No matter which path you take, it's incredibly difficult to be a mom. The expectations of us are right. We have like, Sports Illustrated swimsuit bodies, and the kids are all in 17 classes, and we also hold down a 90-hour-a-week job that's very important, and we get our manicures, and everything is, we just have 48 hours, and everyone else's 24-hour day. It's simply not possible.
So speaking of 90-hour-a-week jobs, Alicia, maybe you could tell this mom how to handle what happens when other moms want to plan play dates during the week and I work. I've been judged and told that I'm not spending enough time with my baby.
She's not. No.
I've definitely felt being on the working mom end and I'm left out. Like, my baby is losing out on these wonderful opportunities, play date opportunities, because I'm at work. And a lot of times other moms don't want to get together with, oh, you've got the babysitter? Well, maybe next time. But now that the kids are older, it's much easier. But I just remember being in that situation. And oftentimes there are Saturdays and Sundays that you need to, I would invite, the women in my mom group over to kind of make up. And then after a while, when they got to see how my child interacted with their kids, then it would be like, oh, no, bring your babysitter along for the weekday play date. So it will take a little effort on your part, weekends, and maybe sometimes like, a late afternoon play date, but not everyone wants to do something like that as far as moms and witching hours and all that kind of stuff. Right. That's a hard time. So I would always try to do at least, a Saturday or Sunday thrown in somewhere. Or, a time where I would, ask to take, their child off their hands. If, they're stay-at-homes, they work from the home, and when their husbands are home on the weekends, they, so sometimes I'd say, let me take your child for a few hours to play with, my son or daughter, and they definitely welcome that. So, yeah.
Another trick, I think, for working moms with play dates is I used to schedule weekly play dates so that you're not rescheduling, because you don't have time to make this social calendar every week. So I used to make a weekly play date with another working mom, and so our nannies would switch houses every Wednesday, and then it was like Wednesdays were off my plate. I never had to think about it. So that's kind of a nice thing to do, and now I still do that with weekly play dates that you're not rescheduling every week. So we have to finish up. We're running a little bit late, but I just thought maybe you could leave us with one piece of advice, one pithy piece of advice before we head back to take some really fun pictures over there about your mommy truth. So you can either take posters that are already made, like I chose to formula feed from the start, or I send my baby to daycare, or you can write your own and then take pictures with them over there in our photo booth. But first we'll get last pieces of wisdom.
I think mine is from the awards this weekend, which is let it go, let it go, let it go. Let whatever it is that's like, eating away at you, just say bye. Just goodbye to that. Like, put your head on the pillow tonight and say, you know what, as Marianne and I like to say, tomorrow's another day. You can figure that out tomorrow. Like, just let everything else go. Go home, hug your family, your husband, your kids, because nothing else matters.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, at one point I thought about getting a tattoo to remind myself to let go.
Right?
I think for us at CQ Working Moms, we do actually have the power to be less judgmental. I know it feels hard. I mean, I helped, start this. I still judge people. I still find myself doing it. But we all have the power to change the way that we think, and it simply starts by noticing you're doing it. When you notice you're having that judgmental thought, you don't have to follow where that goes. You don't have to go down like the crazy road of judging that mom even more. You can just be like, okay, I'm judging, I'm just gonna let this go. And if you do that over time, I mean, I've been trying to do that over time, and I can feel a change within myself that I feel just naturally more compassionate towards other moms. So just know that if it's something you want to do, you can try to change the way that you think.
It's funny, when I became a mom for the first time, I suddenly began to think about all the moms on the planet who don't have time to have the problems that we think we have, right? Where you're suddenly like, imagine the day where you're just looking for basic sustenance for your baby, like to make sure that they're getting through the next 24 hours, or they'd see the like refugee camps. And it really, I think that was a thing that sort of made a lot of it being like, so I believe we are all doing the best we can at any given moment to make great decisions for our kids that feel good to us. And I think that, I always thought I had such a long list of things to be judged for that it was sort of hard. And if you look at it that way, like I'm assuming at this point, probably because I'm like a third-time parent, and you make so many mistakes and you only really realize later. And in the end of the day, as we say, they're all basically healthy contributors to society. And I think if you keep yourself focused on that the most important thing is that they're healthy, generally happy, and have some lust for this life that we will lead, that you're giving them, that helps you stay sort of focused on them, and not on you ultimately and your feelings about the whole process. So there's that.
I'm going to say it in a little crasser way. Aspire every day to be the shittiest mom that you can possibly be. That way, if you go through the day and you're not, you're going to feel like the best mom ever.
That's awesome. I was a shitty mom today again. It's awesome. The kids were late for school. I forgot to have anything for lunch, to pack. How about a yogurt? It is. It's like, and our kids have high-class problems.
Exactly.
So.
Amen.
And also reach out on CT Working Moms, read the Shitty Mom book. You are going to feel so good afterwards. And come to the Bump community where there are a lot of moms with whatever your passion point or question is, or all, particularly once you have their baby, who are feeling just as shitty as you. Oh, my one last thing. The first 2 weeks after you have a baby, like, this is the scariest moment. You think, as I say, saying back to that, you think you're the only one on the planet that doesn't think that this is just like the sort of magical being that's made your life so beautiful. And it's a scary moment. Some people got away without having this feeling. I think it's a miracle. I was sitting at home being like,
Me too.
uh-oh.
That's when the judging starts, but to yourself, though,
And you are hormonal, and you're crying, and you're hating on yourself because you are I'm the only person that doesn't love this worm. And so that is a moment. Just please remember that I said that, and be like, no, right. Everybody feels this. Nobody wants to talk about it because everyone else wants to be like, no, it was rainbows and angels, and it was fabulous. So it happens. It's hard and scary. And then by not even really, when did you say you actually began to like your baby?
I'm not. She's
You're
9
still
now.
working?
I'm still working
Yeah.
on it.
No, mine's 16.
No judgment.
I'm down
No
the other.
judgment.
Yeah.
Rub it in, Carly.
And I think it's really not until they wake up, but there's a moment where you're like, oh, it's alive. It smiled back at me, where you suddenly start to feel that feeling, and it comes alive. It'll come alive in all of you, but.
You know what, I think honestly I was such a type A, and then all of a sudden you have this little thing that's dependent upon you, and I always wanted to be like, I'm an independent person, like to spend my whole life, and all of a sudden you have somebody, you're like, I don't think I want this, and then you realize, for me, it was literally once I realized that you can go and still, life goes on, and that you can still get on a plane, you can still go get a car, that it's okay, that's when it became Okay, yeah, like, so then those feelings started going away a little
It's
bit.
a roller coaster ride, but it's
Have fun.
the most amazing thing you'll ever do in your life, for sure, by miles. So.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you all so much for coming, and hopefully you'll find support in each other. And our panelists will be mingling for the next 15 minutes if you want to ask them any more questions or post
This is so
pictures
cute, you
with
guys. I
them.
just
I
want to
know,
take a
we're
picture
all
of
like,
you all.
we're all like taking, everyone hold their tummies if they're pinky, not you anymore. Yeah, no, be like, it's so cute. So fun.